Good morning, everybody. How's everyone? Last day, you stayed, you haven't gone home. Thank you for being here. This is wonderful. I'm so excited about this masterclass. I'm going to introduce a wonderful panel, starting over there with Elinor Day, who's series producer for season 2. Next to Elinor is Damon Thomas, director and executive producer. Fiona Shaw is with us this morning. Don't feel bad that you two didn't get an applause. It's absolutely fine. Lee Morris, who's executive producer, and Sally Woodward-Gentle as well, executive producer. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and congratulations. First of all, it was great to be able to say that to you, because I kind of feel like I haven't really heard you talk about this incredible thing that you have created. And Sally and Lee, I'll start with you if that's okay. And because can we talk about the journey of this from the start? Because very nearly didn't happen, I believe, as well.
That's right. I mean, we're a little company at SID. You know, there's about 8 or 9 of us, and we're always looking for sort of interesting projects. And Luke Jennings had written these novellas, which was published, almost self-published on Amazon. But he was at a dinner party with a colleague of ours and said, "We have a little look." And so she gave them to us, and we read them and really enjoyed them. But wanted a sort of slightly different take on them, because people, you know, we've gone female assassins. We all love a female assassin, who doesn't? But you know, there's Nikita, there's La Femme Nikita, you know, there's all of this stuff, and you're always looking. I always look and think, you know, I don't want to present something to a broadcast, and they go, "Yeah, but what about this?" And you go, "Oh no, you know, there is that." Yeah. So, but also to take the female perspective, what Luke had really cleverly done was have. You know, the Eve and Villanelle characters together, and not many people had done that before. But I'd met Phoebe, having read her stage play, which had been up at Edinburgh, and it had guinea pigs in it, so I thought, I've got to meet her. And she was just amazing. So we just thought, well, let's see what happens if you put these sort of 2 bits together. And it was a fun punt, really.
But it wasn't an obvious thing, and I remember at the time when you said to me that you thought Phoebe might be good to adapt it. I wasn't aware of Phoebe, and you know, Fleabag wasn't out. It was just, you know, a stage play at the time, and I remember saying to you, "Do you really think this is a wise idea?" And you know, and then of course it just all seems obvious in hindsight, but that was I think a pivotal moment in the development. What did you see in Phoebe's writing that it was the right
Well, it was meeting her. So if there isn't something obvious in Fleabag's sake, we think, okay, yeah, she can do Killing Eve. But it was the fact that she loved television. She was glorious. She was clearly incredibly naughty. And she loved things from a female. It was all about women, but it wasn't that from a sort of politically tub-thumping type of way. It was just inherently fabulous. And I just thought she'd have fun with it.
Yeah. Because you really wanted to do something different. I think you said that you just, not just another piece of TV.
Yes, yeah.
And so how did you then go about doing that? Because I imagine that's actually probably the hardest thing to try and achieve. You've done it. Yeah. But actually the decisions that you made to try and achieve that at the start.
Well, from the beginning, I mean, we did develop it with a broadcaster who said we want something that you couldn't see on any other channel, and so you naturally go for something that feels a little bit different, which is what we did, and then nobody else wanted it. But then after that, you sort of follow it through, and when it came to production, which I'm sure everybody else can talk to, it was also about making sure that every single element of it was sort of ambitious and felt a little bit different. And you just had fun with it. Yeah. And that's the music, that's, you know, where you film it, that's the production design, the graphics. So,
Fiona, you talked about earlier when you sat down for that first table read. Can you tell us about that a bit?
Yes, because Sally was saying, you know, how under the radar the whole thing was. But I remember the first table read. It was a very big room, nearly as big as this, actually, and a huge amount of people around it. And it was utterly thrilling. You felt something amazing was happening. And that was just with people mumbling into their scripts and Phoebe marking everything that wasn't funny enough. And, you know, I thought they were very funny, but I could see her going wrong. And it was full of a frisson. And I didn't I was in no doubt that it was something unique. Its success is breathtaking, but it certainly felt unique. It didn't feel usual.
When people talk about Killing Eve, they usually begin talking about the writing. It's something that's kind of always really talked about. But I loved your description of the show being based around glorious moments as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not wild about plot.
Oh, I don't know.
And when I'm sorry,
no pardon.
But also when you're in the edit, I know that I relax when I know that we've got that bit coming and we've got that bit coming and then we've also got that bit coming.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I meant by that. And I think that on the whole, you know, I think we're as human beings, we like puzzles, we like putting things together, and that's really satisfying. And character and complexity of character is really important. But just having that thing that sort of affects you emotionally, I think is really important.
Were you going to pick up on something there? Sorry, Elinor. I thought I interrupted you.
To shut up.
We've got loads of brilliant clips that are kind of going to help sort of to talk about specific things. We're going to see one of those right now, which is from Series 2, Episode 2. And this is Villanelle escaping. Let's take a look. I wanted to see the rest of it. Love that. Yeah. So, as you'll discover as we go through the session, Sally has a slightly warped love of violence, which may be partly to do with what we see on the screen today. Damon, can we talk through directing, you know, a scene like that and sort of breaking that down?
I think first I've got to say that we're not only do we have a brilliant main cast that can handle the tone of the show, which is really difficult.
Yeah.
That we can also call on people like Julian Barrett to come in and play Julian, who he plays it with such a kind of sensitivity. I mean, obviously he's going to get it from Villanelle at some point. You know that from when she arrives at the house and sees all the dolls, and then he keeps her captive. But I think in this particular scene, Villanelle, because she's been kept captive and she's not her best, she's sick, she's been stabbed. I wanted that fight particularly to be quite messy. And so that so you didn't see the lead up to that where he starts saying, "What do I get?" He actually turns and goes nasty, which is a really good moment.
Yeah.
And it is a sort of combination of just choreographing it so it's just not slick. And that also that he gets killed in such a sort of horrible way with a knitting needle.
With a knitting needle.
You were days in the house, weren't you?
Yeah, we shot that. I mean, you can't tell. I mean, hopefully you can't tell. There is a stunt double in there for Julian.
Is there?
Being smacked against the wall, yeah. So you can't, and for Jodie. So it's shot in a way so you just can't tell. But they are
So brilliant.
Yes. Thank you.
But the way that you're able, like, you heard the audience laugh at those moments where you know, where the mum, she comes out and stuff, and the way that you're able to blend those things together, the thriller element, the comedy element and stuff, is that, how do you do it?
I mean, obviously it starts in the writing and then we have discussions about how we can... I think one of the things we talk all the time about is how can we make it more Killing Eve? How do we make this scene more Killing Eve? How can it have the juxtaposition of the quite incredible violence, but with the comedy moments? So just having the mother, who you didn't know was in the house. There's another scene where she discovers the mother for the first time. Just watching. There's just something really comic about it. It's sort of like life and death struggle, and the mum's just sitting there, just not reacting. It's just
And then wandering off in her
weirdly
90s.
about, even though it's quite comic and quite cartoony occasionally, it's also sort of thinking about the truth of it.
Yes,
like
it's
if
real.
that front door was open, the mother would escape.
Yes.
So, you know, thinking about, and the absurdity of the truthfulness sometimes adds to the humour as well.
And also it feels like if that scene feels a bit like the end of the show, because it's so... But then there's another big scene coming up with Adrian in the car, her new handler, which is also another sort of quite violent moment that is also funny.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what's so brilliant about the
surprises,
show.
isn't it? As you say, it's always finding those flips and you know, taking a genre, particularly with the whole, you know, the thriller and the spy genre, and then finding the reality within that, you know. And I think that juxtaposition, people recognise real life, and that people need to go shopping, and you know, and yet they've got this big mission on, and so I think people really enjoy just sort of seeing, you know, and how messy that fight is, you know, that it's not glamorous, so that she's not, you know, especially when she's got this terrible seeping wound, that Villanelle isn't always, you know, the perfect assassin. You know, at times she's just a girl who's scrapping with a guy. You know?
Yeah.
And there was a great moment as well where she throws the knitting needle, and this was by mistake, I think. She threw the knitting needle and it hit one of the china dolls and it made a really lovely pinging noise. And you just sort of keep that pinging, and maybe people don't pick up on it, but it's in there.